Okay, Ed, you're welcome to begin anytime.
Okay. Good evening. This meeting of Community Board 14 is called to order on January 11th at 6:31 p.m. under the applicable statutes of New York State, the Charter of New York City, the board's bylaws, and Robert's Rules of Order. Because the board's policy is to encourage detailed public discussion of matters before the board at our committee meetings and at public hearings, there will be no public discussion at our regular monthly meetings on matters about which a public hearing or committee meeting has been held. We understand that this has caused some confusion recently, and I would like to thank the staff for creating a new sign-up system for the public session. And I would also like to thank our community for their understanding and their patience as we continue to struggle with the constraints of meeting remotely. Any questions that arise from this meeting and specific service delivery requests or community issues should be brought to the attention of the district office staff by calling the board office during regular business hours or by emailing the office anytime. Matters and announcements of civic interest may be brought before the board during the public comment period, which begins after all other business of the board has been concluded. No partisan public appeals, partisan political appeals or advertising of for-profit enterprises will be heard. Persons wishing to speak during the public comment period are required to pre-register in advance of the meeting. Minutes of the December meeting, I believe all board members have received minutes. So at this time, I will entertain a motion to approve of the minutes.
Ed, we don't have quorum at this time. It looks like
Okay.
there's 20. We need to wait for a couple more board members
Thank
to
you, Sean.
join us. Yeah.
Thank you.
I could, since I don't have anything in my report that requires a vote, I would be, I could move forward with my report and then we can loop back to the minutes if you'd like, Mr. Chairman.
Absolutely. Thank you, Sean. Please do.
Okay, so the beginning of my report really is just to update the board on the task force for the 2286 Church Avenue old PS 90 site. At the urging of the community board, the task force is working hard to expedite their public facing process and have scheduled their next meeting for February 3rd, which is a postponement to make sure that they've got some public access, a website and live stream of their meetings up and running before they move on with meetings. So we're really gratified that they are moving this forward into the public realm. The RFQ for this proposal for affordable housing and a youth center or youth programming site has been released, and there is a link to it on our own website under the projects tab. Thanks to Dwayne Joseph and Maria Ravan Hazelwood, Florence Achang-Acheta, and to our chairman, Ed Powell, for joining me on the one-on-one interview that the task force conducted last week, I think that was. I also want to report out on the district service cabinet meeting that we held on January 6th. As always, it was an extremely useful, fruitful meeting. We tackled a lot of the hard to address issues in the district, working with multiple agencies, and hopefully we'll see some improvements on some chronic conditions. But certainly I want to encourage members of the public and board members to bring anything to our attention that has to do with a city agency enforcement or ideas for improvement regarding, on anything a city agency would have some purview over. And there are certain things that we do need to call 311 on. So if you contact our office and we ask you to do that, it's really just to sort of establish patterns and to build data on some of these conditions. So you're always welcome to call 311, but if you haven't and we ask you to, that's the reason why. It does help us help the community on things. And then the last thing I want to talk about is citywide budget cuts and how hard they have hit community boards. And board members all received a copy of our letter that was sent to Mayor de Blasio. It was CC'd to all 4 of our city council members, which you all know are ex officio members of our community board, as well as Speaker Corey Johnson and Council Member Cabrera, who is the government operations chairman and who's been a big champion for community boards and is the person who won us the $42,500 one-shot deals 2 years in a row, which obviously weren't forthcoming this year. So I am hoping that our elected officials and specifically our council members will persuade the city to restore funding for community boards. And the reason, it's not as though we don't understand the financial crisis that we're in. It's that every other city agency has grown, and some of them, a lot of them have had double-digit percentage increases over the past 10 years. No, not 10, almost 8 years, over the past 9 years. Except for community boards. Community board staffing citywide hasn't grown in 27 years, and our budgets didn't increase beyond the cost of living in the past 9. And so if you look at like the mayor's office that had 40% salary increases, and Department of Transportation, Department of Buildings, ACS, DFTA, all had increases, and they were worthy of those increases, but they're asking to be cut from an increase, and we're the only agency being asked to cut from our original baseline. So that's our thinking on that. We will hopefully be spared, but in the meantime, it's not an existential crisis for this board because we've been working with only 1 staff member, but it certainly does diminish what we can do in the future, and it's an existential threat to other boards that are fully staffed. And I don't know if that's the city just not looking at every agency and kind of taking a blunt object to it, or if it's a purposeful way of making sure that community voices aren't heard so that, you know, people at the top can move things along more expeditiously. I'll leave you to ponder that and make your own decisions, but we are hoping for support on pushing back on the budget cuts. So that's my beef for tonight. But certainly keep us posted on what you're seeing out there in the community. And thank you as always for your continued communication and your support for our efforts.
Thank you, Sean.
Yeah.
By the way, attendance is being recorded via WebEx rather than by roll call. So do we have a quorum present yet?
Yes, we do. We have 30 board members on the line.
Excellent. Then we'll move on with adoption of the minutes for the December, and I'll entertain a motion at this time.
Gail Smith, motion to approve.
Cindy Bendel, second the motion.
It's been moved and seconded that the December board meeting, December minutes be approved. So are there any objections or no votes on this? Hearing none, the minutes are approved. Now, do we have any public officials who have joined us at this time?
Not at this time.
Okay, thank you. Then we'll move on with the chair's report.
Ed, before you begin, we don't have elected officials with us now, but I did speak with Councilmember Eugene's office, and he was planning on being here this evening, but has his own meeting that conflicts. So he did ask me to. It's not how we ordinarily do it, but I said happily I will extend his greetings. He's actually on a meeting with the Respect Brooklyn and the Save Cortelyou groups regarding 1620 Cortelyou Road, but sends his greetings and wishes Happy New Year.
Fantastic. Thank you, Sean. The chair's report begins with the recommendation on January 5th, the board reached a consensus to approve an application for 1935 Coney Island Avenue between Avenue O and Avenue P, Block 6758, Lot 51, BSA calendar number 174-07BZ. The application was filed pursuant to Section 73-211 of the New York City Zoning Resolution, ZR, for an extension of term to permit the existing automotive service station use group 16B with an accessory convenience store located in a C2-3 / R7A zoning district, which expired June 17, 2018, and an extension of time to obtain a certificate of occupancy and a waiver of the rules pursuant to Rule 1-07.3 B2 to permit the filing of this application more than 1 year, but less than 2 years after the expiration of the term. Are there any questions by board members or discussion?
No
Okay,
hands are raised.
the consensus of those present at the hearing was to approve. Can we have a motion to approve?
Motion approve.
Second the motion.
Okay, it's been properly moved and seconded that this application be approved. Is there anyone who wishes to vote no on this? Please make it, please make it known at this time. Are there any abstentions? Is there anyone who is not permitted to vote on this because of a conflict of interest? Hearing none of the above, this motion then carries, and all board members will be recorded as voting yes on this. Next is the, I'm sorry, was there someone attempting to speak at this time?
And I think that's just background noise from somebody who hasn't muted. I think you're okay to proceed.
Thank you. Next is my appointment of a bylaws committee. On January 5th, the meeting was held to establish a bylaws committee reflective of the board itself and to determine the scope of the review. I hereby appoint the following members to that committee: Florencia Chang Agata, Edward Sen, Carl Henry Cesar, Stephen Cohen, Joe Dweck, Ann Gaudette, Jonathan Judge, Ephraim Nuremberg, Deborah Valentine, and Glenn Wolin.
Ed, there was a typo in the notes, and per a conversation we had earlier, you were planning on including Nicole Levinson and Julo as well. Is that still the
Yes.
case? Okay,
Yes,
then we will record
absolutely.
her as a member of that committee as well. Thank you.
Those members are responsible for attending all bylaws committee meetings and will be the body that shall reach consensus on any changes to the bylaws, which will be brought to the full board for a vote upon completion. Any other interested board members may participate in the bylaws committee meetings, which will be public meetings. The first bylaws committee meeting will be scheduled for February 2nd at 6:30 p.m. Next is my appointment of a nominating committee. Pursuant to our bylaws, I hereby appoint the following members to the nominating committee: Florencia Chang Agata, Ephraim Nuremberg, Dwayne Joseph, Mohammed Razvi, and Abe Treff. The district manager will coordinate a coordinating committee meeting time during the first week of February in advance of our February board meeting. The nominating committee will announce a slate of executive committee nominees, and any additional nominations will be taken from the floor. If there are contested elections, we will proceed with an electronic voting process that will be backed up with paper ballots that will be mailed out to each member. Results will be announced at our March meeting, which we anticipate will still be remote. Board members should email any questions or concerns to the board office. We will make every effort to ensure processes fall within allowable exceptions that have been made at the state and city level in response to the pandemic. And that concludes the chair's report. Have we been joined by any elected officials or appointed officials at this time?
Not yet at this time, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. Then we'll move on at this time to topical committee reports, starting with education, libraries, and cultural affairs. Either of the co-chairs on for education, libraries?
Yep, Ed. I'm here,
Okay.
and I saw Steve too, and he gave the report last time, so I'll be giving the report this time.
Thank you, Carl.
No problem, sure. So basically, we had a meeting on December 21st, and so the original agenda was to have 3 people present. It was going to be Professor David Bloomfield on an update on public schools. It was going to be Nadia Rosario regarding an update on the Brooklyn Public Library, and then it was also going to be Robin Redmond speaking on behalf of the Flatbush Development Corporation. Unfortunately, we weren't able to have representation from the Brooklyn Public Library, and so our update ended up being from Professor David Bloomfield on public schools, and then also Robin Redmond on the Flatbush Development Corporation. And so regarding Professor Bloomfield, very high level, there were 3 things that he touched about. It was basically the DOE policy at that time about removing academic screens for middle school admissions. The second piece was a brief update on remote learning, and then the third piece was question and answer. And so in general, what David Bloomfield had to share about the removing of screens, academic screens specifically for middle school admissions, he said that this is something that he and some other people within the ed policy space have been advocating for some time under the Bloomberg administration. That didn't go anywhere. They were hoping it would get traction under de Blasio. In his opinion, the decision on Shazat was a bit of a move in that direction, but nothing extravagant. COVID seems to have forced that issue. And so he said he took fault with the de Blasio administration not notifying families and communicating with people earlier about this, because he felt it should have been clearer ahead of time that given the shutting down of schools and the state decision about no test, that it was inevitable that this decision would have been made. Another thing that he brought up as well too, and that came up in question and answer, was, is there any way to quantify the impact of what people are experiencing right now, whether it's learning loss, achievement gap, or any sort of gain? And he was saying that it may be hard to quantify that due to the lack of, testing and some other things that are available right there. But he does feel that there will be an impact. It's just a question of how it will be possible to measure that impact. And then the other thing that some other folks brought up during question and answer in regards to this piece was the question of could we see any demographic shifts, right? Like he had mentioned, there were definitely estimates that up to 100,000 kids may have left the system so far. District 15, because they had gotten rid of the screened admissions. So then there's questions of, does this mean that families will move elsewhere within the city or just leave, right? So these were some of the questions that came up during that part of the conversation that was about the removal of academic screens for middle school admission. In terms of remote learning, so Professor Bloomfield gave his assessment that it wasn't going well. And so there were some questions that came up from Robin Redmond and Flatbush Development Corporation and some other members who had attended the call, just about what steps can be taken if they need to get on the list for Wi-Fi, and has the DOE come up with a new plan in regards to devices that were Wi-Fi enabled at some point and may no longer be. And so there was that question about what does that look like? And then in terms of the Q&A, you know, some of the other topics that came up were related to both of those were just questions of the next mayor, will the next mayor do anything with this removal of, you know, middle school screens for middle school admissions, or is that something that would come back, right? So very high level, that was what Professor Bloomfield covered within his portion. As for Robin Redmond, what she shared with us was that it's been a challenge, like many other things, but there's been some very pleasant and beneficial creativity that has come forth from the residents of Flatbush, and then also from the people working with her organization. So she gave an example of something that existed before the time of COVID, being music on porches. And then she mentioned how when COVID set in and things were being shut down, how some of these musicians basically switched the model to now make it offering music lessons, right? So she gave that example. She gave another example of a photographer who had decided to take candids of small businesses and how that was picked up by the city as some sort of art show. And so she gave some examples of that. One of the challenges she highlighted in several ways was the challenge of funding, where she was saying how, you know, given that after school funding is allocated for certain ways, then she and her team have had to be creative within legal means to find other ways to hit needs that they know exist, but that they can't execute given that the money they were given is for a specific need. So she gave some examples of that right there. And that's
Okay.
the status update for the committee meeting.
Thank you so much, Carl.
Mhm.
Next is Youth Services, which will be followed by Human Services.
Dwayne, if you want to take a stab at it, otherwise I'll take it from here.
Go right ahead, Jonathan.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. Glad to
evening.
see you. Happy all New Year. We don't have anything immediate to report except for our next committee meeting, which is going to be, you'll have to forgive me because I don't want to get this wrong. I think it's the 23rd. No, that's not a thing. Sorry. It is the 25th. That is it. Yep, 25th. Monday, January 25th at 6:30 p.m. We'll be meeting to continue our discussion on the Youth Leadership Council. And most importantly for us each year, as you all know, is putting together our annual youth conference, where we find jobs, internships, and other opportunities, bring them together in one place for several hundred teens at least, who are coming from the communities of Midwood, Flatbush, Kensington, and you know, from right here in our district. So we probably will have to have a serious conversation about how that should look differently this year, so we can still put it on, or what we're going to do with that if we still want to continue to put it on in some fashion. Anyway, if you have ideas or opinions about any of that and you want to partake in that conversation, join us on January 25th, Monday, January 25th at 6:30 p.m. via WebEx for us to have that conversation, figure out what to do on those fronts. So, Dwayne, anything else you got to add? Want to add? All right, I think that's it, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, John. And thank you, Dwayne. Human Services, followed by Public Safety.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Joanne Brown, co-chair of Human Services Committee. No report from a committee meeting, but I do have 2 announcements. Let me orient. We are having a meeting on January 19th, which is a Tuesday, 6:30 p.m. via WebEx. We have 2 items on that agenda. COVID-19 testing update from New York New York City Health and Hospitals. Second agenda item is COVID-19 vaccine update from the Department of Health and Mental Hygiene. Speaking of the vaccine, I just wanted to give District 14 an update of what's going on with the vaccine for our community. There is an expansion of eligibility for people who are interested in receiving the vaccine. That would be workers in ambulatory care, funeral home workers, healthcare workers that aren't otherwise eligible, public health workers, home care health workers, teachers and education workers, first responders, public safety workers, public transit workers, and people over age 75. I will put this link in the chat, but if you're looking to obtain a vaccine and you meet the eligibility for this tier, which is considered 1B by the state, you can visit the website vaccinefinder.nyc.gov, enter your zip code, and you will see a really impressive list of locations in our area that will accommodate your desire to be vaccinated against SARS-CoV-2 and COVID-19. And I think that is it for my report. I wish everybody a happy and very healthy new year, and I look forward to seeing you at our meeting on the 19th. And also there was some talk about having a virtual nonprofit roundtable just to check in with our nonprofits and maybe perhaps strategize with them on how we can work with the community and encourage vaccination if that's what's right for them. But have a great night. Thank you.
Thank you, Joanne. Public safety, followed by community environment. Is anyone on? Zvi Plotska?
It does look like Svi may have been trying to make a comment. He is unmuted, but Svi, we can't hear you at this point.
Okay, keep trying, Zvi. We'll come back to you. Community environment.
Hi, this is Don Loggins. I don't know if you can hear me, but just 2 announcements. The first announcement is in Prospect Park. They put in 2 new entrances in the park. The first new entrance since 1940. One is on the northeast side of the park near the old Rose Garden, and a smaller second entrance is located north of the Prospect Park Zoo. So that happened within the last month. And also, I want to announce that sanitation is going to be holding hearings on January 26th. They want to change the rules for private bulk sanitation companies, limiting 3 companies to an area rather than having a dozen or so different sanitation trucks running around picking up trash. And there'll be more on that on the community board website. That's it.
Thank you, Don.
Okay.
Zvi, is Zvi on yet?
Svi is with us, and I do see that he's unmuted. He may be having a microphone issue on his end. Sorry, Svi.
Okay, let's move on to transportation, and we'll come back to Zvi one last time.
Good evening, everybody. Joel Siegel. Happy New Year. Happy and healthy New Year. As Joanne said, I agree with that 100%. I think we're headed for a much, much better 2021, notwithstanding the last week's events. I don't have a report from the Transportation Committee, although there's something going on regarding parking at the Park Circle And notwithstanding my college and law school education, I cannot make heads or tails of it. Sean has been sending me emails about it. Perhaps, Sean, you can help me out here. I cannot figure out what the heck's going on.
Well, I think the problem is, the reason why we can't figure it out is because DOT hasn't come to this board to present their plan to try to rationalize Park Circle. I only know that they have a plan because our bordering colleague in CB7, Jeremy Loffer from CB7, shared with me the PowerPoint that was presented to his board. So I just wanted to loop in the transportation co-chairs as to the fact that there is a plan that's forming at DOT. We have invited them to come share with us, and so far they have resisted. Maybe from the input from CB7, they're redrawing the plans before they come to us. I don't know, but that's the reason why we can't make heads or tails of anything, because they haven't brought us either heads or tails. But I will keep as soon as they are ready to present, I'll be in touch with the co-chairs so that we can schedule a transportation committee meeting. And, we all know that that's a very difficult traffic circle. And with the bike lanes that they're planning on putting in Parkside that they have come to us with, and our concerns about Coney Island Avenue, we do hope that there's an improvement, but, we're awaiting the community input aspect, which is not too unusual with Department of Transportation. So thanks for raising it, Joel.
Okay. Perhaps we need a monorail or something. All right, thank you, everybody. Good to see everybody.
Thanks, Joel.
Thank you, Joe. Okay, one last shot for Svi Plotzker.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I spoke with Svi Plotzker. Apologies for the technical difficulties. He does not have a report this evening for the Public Safety Committee, but did want to wish everyone a happy and healthy new year.
Great, thank you so much. Okay, this concludes our topical committee reports and moves us on to our public session. But just before we do that, I'm just going to check one more time to see if there are any elected officials who have joined us.
And there are not at this time. We do have some representatives from the office who are signed up to speak later.
Thank you. Okay, then this brings us to our public comment period, and board members are expected, of course, to remain for the public comment period. Because we are meeting remotely, all speakers were asked to pre-register via email to the board office. Any member of the public who was not able to register in time can follow up directly with the board and staff to request that announcements get posted on the CB14 website. Matters of civic interest and announcements of public events are invited. No partisan political appeals, service delivery requests, or advertising of for-profit enterprises are permitted. Each speaker will be permitted to speak for up to 3 minutes and may not receive additional time from another speaker. All groups must have a single representative. The board has an obligation to conduct its business in an orderly manner. Any persons preventing the meeting from continuing will be muted, possibly disconnected from the meeting. Time is now 7:05 p.m. and I'm going to ask Anya to coordinate the speakers and advise us who the first speaker is and who that person will be followed by.
Okay, very good. We have 4 speakers registered this evening, and I will read them off by the order that they registered in. Our first speaker will be Lisa Derrick from Assemblywoman Bichat's office, followed by Eileen Newman from the Brooklyn Borough President's office, followed by Elizabeth Roisman, followed by Dwayne Joseph from Assemblywoman Richardson's office. So the first speaker will be Lisa Derrick.
Hi there. Good evening, everyone. And Happy New Year's to you. Good evening to the board. Good evening to all of you. I'm happy to be here in another year with you guys, and I'm tuning in just at the time when we're doing our public session. That was not intended. I actually thought that I was getting on time for this meeting. I confused the 6:30 with the 7, as we would with our physical meeting. So my apologies. But I bring greetings on behalf of Assemblymember Rodney Bichot. And she wishes you all a very happy new year as well, as she's looking forward to seeing you all virtually at her State of the District address, which is expected to take place on January 28th. We will be sharing more information about that a little later. Three things that I just want to mention. One, with regard to the toy drive that we conducted, we'd like to thank all of those who participated in our toy drive. We had a nice out of people being very generous in their donations and making sure that the children were going to be happy and greeted with a toy this year. We had several hundred toys that had come to us, and we distributed to organizations and shelters throughout the district. One of the legislative items that Assemblymember Bichot is very proud of is the passing of her bill, the Joan Bishop-Cowan Law, which was a bill that was very near and dear to her, which addresses to notify people who are coming in if there are any dangers of preterm labor, to assist them and care for them, as well as provide any additional information that they may need to know on how to handle it and what to expect. This is all in honor of her late son, Jonah Bishop-Cowan. Some of you may start seeing some changes in Assemblymember Bichot's name as Assemblymember Bichot Hermelin. You may have heard that she recently got married. She just got married on January 1 to Edu Hermelin, who is a district leader as well. It was on January 1st, which was in recognition of Haitian Independence Day. So that was an important day for her as well. So if you see the name change, it's not an error. You'll get used to seeing it more frequently. But with that, I thank you all and look forward to seeing you hopefully in the near future when all of this stuff will pass us by and we can come together once again in person. Have a great evening, everyone.
Thank you, Lisa.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, I also want to acknowledge that I overlooked Nancy Lulu from the DA's office will be our final speaker. And the next speaker will be Eileen Newman from the Borough President's office.
Hey there, folks. Good evening. Good to see you all. Happy New Year. And you certainly want a happier New Year for sure. I just wanted to remind board members to fill out the application to rely on the CB14. Folks on this call who would like to apply to the board, you can find the so the deadline is February 12th, so please don't wait. Anyway, thank you and have a good evening.
Eileen, it's Sean Campbell. I just want to make sure, is the Borough President's office going to be mailing directly to those board members whose terms are up their re-application forms, or is the onus on those whose terms are up to make sure that they are proactive about it?
Looks like we temporarily lost Eileen due to some bandwidth. She might pop back on in a second.
Okay, if we don't get an answer to that, we can move on to the next speaker. If we don't get an answer to that, I will, I'll just email the board to give you a heads up.
Okay, our next registered speaker is Elizabeth Roisman. Go ahead, Ms. Roisman.
Oh, hello. Can you hear me? I'm
Yes.
sorry, I'm having a problem with my video, so I'm not coming up on video. But thank you for having me. My name is Elizabeth Roisman, and this is my first Community Board 14 meeting. I live in the Community Board. I'm a member also of the Brooklyn Solid Waste Advisory Board. We are an organization that meets under the office of the Brooklyn Borough President. And, per our name, we discuss solid waste and environmental issues, mainly how to help New York City reduce how much waste we produce. We meet monthly via Zoom in the past year, and any interested members of the public are encouraged to join. There are also solid waste advisory boards in Manhattan, Queens, and the Bronx. I wanted to announce an event that we're having that's open to the public. Next Tuesday, January 19th, we are having an event called Facing the Plastic Pollution Crisis, a talk with Judith Inc. Judith Inc. is the founder and president of Beyond Plastics, a national project with the goal of eliminating plastic pollution everywhere. She will talk about how single-use plastic is harming our environment from production to disposal. Judith is a national figure. She served as a regional administrator at the EP under the Obama administration, and she currently teaches at Bennington College in Vermont. If you're interested in attending the event next Tuesday the 19th, it is taking place 6:30 to 7:30 via Zoom. To register for the event, you can visit brooklynswab.org. That's Brooklyn, SWAB, like Solid Waste Advisory Board. Or you can visit our Instagram page at Brooklyn_swab. And
to repeat the Brooklyn Swab at what, please?
yeah, I will type it into the chat, actually.
I'm not seeing the chat. I'm sorry.
That's Anne. Anne, I believe that we're gonna, Anya, will you nod? I think we posted this up on our website. There was a link that was sent, and we already have one board member who is, Nina is going to join and sign up. We can put the link up on the website too, if it's not up there already.
Yep, it's not up yet. It's on my list to do tomorrow. Check our website tomorrow, everyone.
Because I got the email, so.
And one thing I just wanted to say, I noticed there's been an increased litter on the streets in the neighborhood, as in all other neighborhoods. And I know that, several litter cleanup groups have sprung up in the city, and I was wondering if there's anything like that, any conversation about that taking place in Community Board 14. I know mutual aid groups have organized to do some street cleanups. Perhaps there is some funding from council members to, make that happen. So looking forward to.
Yeah. We're happy to talk to you offline about service delivery items, as the chair mentioned, as is our practice during business hours. But there have been a number of cleanups by groups like FDC and the Cortellia Road Merchants, et cetera. We post those items on our website for those who want to be involved. And so I want to encourage anybody who's involved and want to make sure we know so that we can, get more volunteers involved in it. So happy to talk to you in greater detail if you want to shoot an email or give us a call.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, we have been joined by Council Member Farah Lewis, and we have two registered speakers, so I will defer to you if you would like to begin with Farah, or our next registered speaker is Dwayne Joseph, followed by Nancy Lulu.
Let's ask the council member to speak, and then we'll continue with our public session. Councilmember Lewis.
Councilmember Lewis, I will unmute you now.
Good evening, everyone. Just want
Good
to wish
evening.
everyone a happy, healthy, and more successful new year as opposed to what we had last year. I'm happy to be here this evening to join you all. Just quick reminder, our office is closed right now, but we're open virtually. We're taking calls. We're still open Monday through Friday from 9 to 5. We take calls at our 718-629-2900 number. And we do set up virtual calls for constituents if they have any complaints. We do it via Zoom, Google Meet, and WebEx. If anyone has any concerns or needs assistance with anything, just wanted to also share with all of you that we're working really hard on opposing a shelter that's coming into the district at Kenilworth. It used to be the old Brooklyn College Residence Hall. We definitely didn't want to see the residence hall leave, but we know due to COVID, he had to close it down. We know that they want to build a shelter there. I more so oppose the project because of the organization that would be operating the shelter. I don't agree with their practices. Their mission is great, but don't agree with their practices and their professionalism. So I did have a conversation with Commissioner Banks, and we did discuss other options that I would be willing to support, like senior housing, affordable housing, or supportive housing. Particularly, this is a residential block where they would be putting this shelter. And I don't think the homeowners who are taxpayers would appreciate not having that conversation with the commissioner and the mayor's office before erecting a shelter there. So just wanted to let you all know, I don't know how others feel about this, but I definitely do oppose the project, but look forward to supporting the commissioner and the community if they are interested in building senior housing or affordable housing. And last but not least, the City Council discretionary funding application for FY22 is currently live. And we want to encourage nonprofit organizations that have a 501c3 status to apply for funding. We will be conducting 3 workshops, 3 discretionary funding workshops, and that information will be shared via email. I also share that information with Sean and her team. If anyone is interested in participating, those workshops will be online, and we will have 3 different variations of those workshops. So I just want to thank everyone for your support, for your time, and for taking the time to listen, and look forward to talking to you also. Thank you.
Thank you, council member. And at this time, we can continue with the public comment period.
Dwayne Joseph from Assembly Member Richardson's office. You're up next.
Hi, everyone. Just for the record, I'm actually not speaking on behalf of the Assemblywoman tonight. I'm actually speaking as a board member. So just, I want the record to reflect that. I just wanted to take 2 or 3 minutes or less than that to just, something, was brought to the attention of the board. I don't know how many other members saw it in our December meeting, where there were community members following. It was either the December meeting or the public hearing where there were a few community members who pointed out that they felt that our board was not communicating meetings as broadly as they felt we could be. I disagree with that. I think our team in the office does a really good job of trying to get the word out, but I would like to encourage all of our board members to do what we can as representatives of our respective parts of the community to get the word out about public hearings and community board meetings. I see my role on this board is not only representing my little section of our district to the board, but also making sure the people in my community are aware of the meetings and the goings on of the board so that we can all engage. So I want to encourage my fellow board members and the regular participants of our board meetings who are not board members, who are, residents or just interested parties to please extend the information out to the community whenever you hear about public meetings or just our regular board meetings, our committee meetings. Engagement in the board is critical, as we all know. We all do it, and it makes our board function a lot more effectively. and have a broader impact on the ground. And also, it takes a little bit of the load off of the staff. We are short, will be for a while. So let's all work together to try and, engage and inform the community. That's my 2 cents. Happy New Year to all. And on to the next person, I guess.
Thank you so much, Dwayne.
Our final speaker for the evening is Nancy Lulu from the Brooklyn District Attorney's Office.
Good evening, everyone. Hope everyone is doing well. On behalf of DA Gonzalez and staff, I would like to wish everyone a prosperous new year. Just a little lengthy announcement regarding the Brooklyn DA's great work at the start of the new year. Back on January 4th, 2021, Brooklyn District Attorney Eric Gonzalez announced that a 21-year-old man has been indicted for reckless manslaughter and other charges in connection with the death of a 50-year-old Brooklyn father. The driver was allegedly speeding in a sports car with worn-out tires and forged inspection stickers when he lost control of his vehicle and slammed into Jose Barrera in front of the victim's young daughter. This horrific crash was not an accident. It was a preventable crime that stemmed from reckless behavior before and during the collision. This is the first indictment obtained by the New Street Safety Bureau at the Brooklyn DA's office, which was created this summer to better address vehicular violence on our roadways. It will continue to thoroughly investigate and prosecute dangerous drivers when there are unlawful actions caused by traffic fatalities and injuries. The Brooklyn DA's office is determined to get justice for victims and to send a message that this conduct will not be tolerated in Brooklyn at all. My second announcement also, last week, Brooklyn District Attorney Eric Gonzalez, together with NYPD Commissioner Dermon Shea, announced that a 15 alleged member of the 900 Street gangs are variously charged in a 77-count indictment with murder, conspiracy to murder, to commit murder, and to possess weapons, attempted murder, and related charges. Four additional alleged members of the 900 gang are variously charged in a separate 11-count indictment with conspiracy to commit murder and possess weapons. Those indictments reflect our commitment to stem the surge in gun violence that we have experienced since last spring. The Brooklyn DA's office is committed in keeping our Brooklyn communities safe and neighborhoods. And finally, I just want to announce that since January is Human Trafficking Awareness Month, for the first time, the Brooklyn Human Trafficking Task Force, Suffolk County Anti-Trafficking Initiative, and the Western District of New York Human Trafficking Task Force are partnering to deliver targeted statewide training for law enforcement, healthcare providers, and the community on how to better identify trafficking. The event will take place over 3 days from January 25th till January 27th. That include 12 panels and presentations from experts in the field. Each sector will have one of their dedicated and tailored trainers. Attending those events will provide community members with particular steps that they can take to join the fight against trafficking. This event is free and fully virtual, so you could join us from anywhere. I posted the link in the chat, but I'll just say it out loud. It's www.brooklyndA.org/HT-Awareness-2021. And if anybody is interested in reading more about the indictments, please feel free to reach out the Brooklyn DA's social media platforms, or you could reach out to me and I'll be gladly to send you those press releases. And at the end, I just want to remind everyone to the Action Center's phone number at the DA's office. If anybody wants to address the matter, please feel free to reach out to 718-250-2340, and I could be reached at lulun@brooklynda.org. Thank you very much, Community Board 14, for all the great work that you always do. And I support Dwayne Joseph, what he said in regards to putting everything out there. You guys do a great job all the time, and I appreciate everything that you do. Thank you, everyone, and Happy New Year.
Thank you, Nancy. I believe that was our last registered speaker. Is that correct, Anya?
That is correct.
Just a couple of words before our motion to adjourn. I just wanted to ask Sean to please reach out to Eileen Mulaney Newman regarding that notification process for board members whose term might be expiring, and so that board members who need that information can maybe reach out to the board office and get the information.
Sure. Let's try her one more time, though, Ed. She is still on this
Okay.
list. And Eileen, if you can hear us and unmute the
I can.
question. Okay. Did you get the
I thought
question?
it was me, actually. So anyway, board members, real quick, in case I get cut. February 12th is the deadline. Please reapply if your intention is to reapply for the board. You can find the application on the community board website. So just go right there, fill it out, get it done. Okay.
And Eileen, the
Yes.
question was, though, is the borough president's office still sending out the reappointment forms to board members whose terms are expiring, or do they have to be proactive about getting their
I think
applications?
they, to the best of my knowledge, I'm 99% sure they're not sending them out.
Okay.
Go to the website, fill it out.
Okay, board members, if you're unsure about about your terms, you can also contact the office and we can tell you whether you're up or not.
Okay, thank you, Sean. Thank you, Eileen. And just a notification to board members, although we have a vaccine, please continue to follow CDC guidelines and be safe. Thanks everybody for joining the meeting. We'll see you next time.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay. Second the
Motion to
motion.
adjourn.
Good night,
Happily
everyone.
moved.
Thank you, everybody.
Good, everybody.
Good night.
So good to
Seconded.
see everybody.
Meeting is adjourned.
Not every-